All right, hey folks, how you doing today? Happy to be able to get a chance to speak to you. My name is Andrew Davidson, and I'm the lead product manager for MongoDB Atlas at MongoDB. I'll do a little bit of a rewind and talk a little bit about where MongoDB, the company, is, the software product, because not everyone knows intimately what we are. So we were actually founded just over 10 years ago. In fact, we went public last year. It was an exciting year for us. We have over 1,000 employees around the world now, over 35 million downloads, millions of people around the world who are using MongoDB all the time, and thousands of people using it for the first time every day. Incredible ecosystem. It's great to really have this virtuous cycle of a growing business baseline to continue to innovate and release new capabilities into our products. So really, why is it that MongoDB is so popular with developers? What's it all about? And the answer is, it's fundamentally the best way to work with your data. The reason it's the best way to work with your data is that MongoDB's data model, which is basically JSON documents, allows developers to intuitively stay in the object model they're comfortable with in code and write that directly to the database without having to spread that data across tables, without having to think about joins, no more ORMs. Just take that JSON and write it directly to the database, but still have all the secondary indexes they need. So that's a key part of why MongoDB is so popular. Another part of its timing. You know, MongoDB was launched, like I said, just over 10 years ago, the same year that AWS launched, the same year that the iPhone was launched. So there was something about that time, and these technologies all are highly symbiotic. MongoDB is one of the most popular workloads on AWS for good reason. They're so symbiotic. So the data model's key. It's highly flexible as well. These days, if you're building an application, it needs to be able to change, to evolve to your end users' requirements. That's how you can keep them pleased. You can push out new versions every week, every 3 weeks, whatever it is. And that's how you can stay ahead of your competition. The MongoDB data model is versatile and flexible and can be changed at any time. That's a key part of it, all while preserving that queryability, the secondary indexes, and the ability to intimately know exactly what's going on in your data tier, which traditionally was the hardest part of an application to change. But it's not just the data model, it's also the physical attributes of the database. MongoDB has high availability baked in with replicas. Those replicas serve a number of powerful building blocks. They ensure high availability if there's a loss of an availability zone or the loss of a node, but they also ensure that you can do workload isolation. You can serve analytical queries off secondaries. You can serve low latency in proximity reads off secondaries in other regions. And all of these things are extremely powerful, in particular if you can actually manage those clusters globally. And that's where the freedom to run anywhere, but fundamentally, by far the best way to run MongoDB, and certainly the best way to run MongoDB on AWS, we have a fully managed database as a service now. As of 2 years ago, we launched it, and it's called MongoDB Atlas. So the same database that a developer can download and run on their laptop, or that enterprises can run in their data centers, and that folks can run in hybrid models, and that folks can even run in a mainframe, if you can believe it. That same developer-loved database can now be delivered as a fully managed service on AWS, and that's extremely powerful. What is MongoDB Atlas? Well, before we talk about all the capabilities, let's remind ourselves that when you move from on-prem or a data center into cloud, into AWS, for example, you need to make a choice. Do you do what you've always done? Do you do the lift and shift and manage your infrastructure in AWS the way you manage your data center? Or do you instead move to the true as-a-service, declarative, instant gratification model that is possible when you're building on top of AWS and everything can be described in code through REST APIs? Well, I would make the argument that if you do the lift and shift, then you're not getting a lot of the benefits of the shift to the cloud. If you move to as a service, then you can transform how your enterprise or your startup can move, how it moves quickly, transform where you invest your mental cycles, and focus on your end customers rather than all the infrastructure management that you traditionally would have had to do in the data center. So let's talk more about this. Traditionally, you have to provision servers in the data center. You have to do that same thing if you're managing yourself in the public cloud on AWS. You have to configure for high availability. That's not trivial. You have to do all kinds of configuration. You have to configure security. If you don't set it up right, and people will always take shortcuts on security, then you open yourself up to risk. You have to configure and test backups, monitoring and alerts, and all the upgrades and maintenance, this basically complexity debt that's associated with managing all of this infrastructure. That's how it always was in the data center. And that's how it can be if you just lift and shift and do it as you always did it in the data center on AWS. But it doesn't need to be that way. MongoDB Atlas delivers true as-a-service capabilities for MongoDB. All of the self-service elasticity, on-demand, any cluster at any scale that can be scaled up or down at any time, paid for by the hour based on the size of the cluster in any region in the world. All the high availability, spreading across availability zones or regions. All the end-to-end security capabilities, encryption over the wire, encryption at rest, firewall, VPC peering on AWS, authentication, Scram authentication, as well as role-based access control, and the ability to have isolated clusters and truly isolated VPCs easily configured and all managed in code. This ensures that you can't disable that security. You can't shoot yourself in the foot, and it's end-to-end. Monitoring, backups, and the fact that it's global, you can reach every major AWS region, including AWS Mumbai. It gives you everything you need to build an application at India scale today, right here in AWS Mumbai. Cross-region replication, I mentioned it. You can actually define which region in the world you want to be your preferred region, where writes will go. And you can also define any regions elsewhere in the world where you want secondary to be able to serve low latency proximity reads. This is extremely powerful. You can move clusters around. Maybe you start in Mumbai, and later you have many customers in Singapore. You can move a cluster from AWS to Singapore in a couple of clicks in our user interface, or through a REST API. Very powerful capabilities. Security is end-to-end. VPC peering, I quickly mentioned it, but that's a really powerful building block. It means fully managed databases as a service like Atlas can feel like it's a hybrid extension of a customer's actual AWS VPC where their application runs, and they can connect purely over private IPs. MongoDB Atlas makes it possible to scale while preserving high availability because the MongoDB drivers that developers use in their application code, they automatically figure out which is the primary in the replica set. They automatically route writes to that primary. The developer doesn't have to think about these details any longer. All they have to do is use a connection string for Atlas, and it all just works, which is super powerful. That's while scaling, or if there's a loss of an availability zone. Same thing. As long as there's majority quorum, you can do reads and writes throughout. We have a live migration service built into MongoDB Atlas. This is the easiest and fastest way to move your on-prem workloads onto AWS. All you have to do is deploy a cluster on MongoDB Atlas in your target AWS region. In the live migration wizard, you enter in the connection string of your pre-existing MongoDB cluster. You click the green button, and we will actually perform an initial sync to pull all that data into the MongoDB Atlas cluster, and we'll apply all changes that have happened to the cluster on-prem since the beginning of that live migration, catching you up in terms of op time. Once you're caught up in op time, you can literally end the migration, stop your application servers on-prem, change the connection string, and restart them. A quick application server bounce, effectively no downtime, and boom, you're on Atlas. And your application's on AWS. It's as easy as that. Literally no downtime, no worries. Going back to MongoDB version 2.6 and above for replica sets, and 3.2 and above for MongoDB sharded clusters. I'd like to mention a customer story. You know, one of the exciting things about MongoDB is that it allows enterprises to be as agile as startups, to be able to innovate and really delight their customers and quickly continue to innovate on the way they touch their customers. But of course, it's really exciting to look at what startups are doing, because startups are always on the cutting edge. And right here in India, very recent history, an application called FanFight was launched just in time for the IPL, Indian Premier League cricket competition that's happening right now. And FanFight has quickly become one of the top fantasy cricket leagues in India today, extremely popular. This was built by a small team in Hyderabad. In 1 month's time, they scaled up from 50,000 users to 1.5 million users, and they're still rapidly growing. They're targeting growth far beyond this point. MongoDB, with people, like I said before, we have over 1,000 employees around the world. We're here to help our customers. We're laser focused on our customers, just like AWS is laser focused on customers. When folks are building applications on MongoDB, we're there to help them set up their schemas. We're there to help them set up for scale. We're there to make sure that our products are evolving and our roadmap reflects the needs of our customers. In the case of Fanfight, MongoDB Atlas allowed them to scale without any downtime in those early days of that viral success, from 50,000 to 1.5 million users. That's that critical hockey stick growth in an early stage startup. If you stumble during that early stage, if your site goes down or you're delivering a bad experience, your whole brand can die in that moment. And so to have that truly declarative, instant gratification, high ability to scale that Atlas delivered for them, they were able to achieve India scale in essentially no time at all. And from there, to get to that next level of scale, to be able to go another order of magnitude, our people are helping them to revamp their schemas and to think through how it is that they're using MongoDB to set them up for the long term. So there's the short-term needs for the IPL, and there's the long-term, setting them up for growth. And we're here working very closely with them. I also wanted to announce today that we're super excited about the India opportunity for developers here to build applications that can reach what is now 530 million smartphones in pockets around this country. We've lowered prices. As of this week, we're announcing up to 14% in AWS Mumbai. We also have, thank you. But I just want to be clear, MongoDB Atlas, we have a number of tiers. You can start on a free tier, which we make a free development sandbox available. All developers in the world can use this free tier. We have over 100,000 people using our free development sandbox today. Everyone can spin that up, and it's free forever. It's there for developers to try new ideas. It's like their laptop, just like they can run MongoDB on their laptop, but the idea is that it sits there in the cloud. It's like a laptop in the cloud. They can return to it to try new ideas, build new application concepts, do hackathons, whatever it is. Over 100,000 people have used that free tier since we launched it just over a year ago. But from there, our starting cluster sizes are $9 a month for the starting shared infrastructure paid tier, and for dedicated infrastructure, we start at $60 a month. Think about that. You have a fully managed database, dedicated infrastructure, starting at $60 a month, highly available, and from there you can scale it up vertically, up and down, anytime you need to. As your users are more active or less active, you can scale those clusters up and down easily in a couple of clicks or through a REST API call. Or you can horizontally scale, linearly allowing yourself to shard the clusters and add incremental abilities to scale indefinitely so that you can handle tens of millions of concurrent users. True India scale applications built on AWS with MongoDB Atlas delivering the fully managed database tier. So very exciting. And with that, I've actually wrapped my time a bit early. So I'm happy to get us caught up on the agenda. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Okay.